Grand dawning, great rising, Cleveland, Ohio, and the rest of planet Earth. Welcome to another edition of 360 Info Network, brought to you by the Cleveland Observer. We have an interesting show for you today. It's going to be a different show, and I'm anxiously awaiting the entrance of a couple of guests that we're going to have on today. But before we get there, I would just like to let you know that there's going to be a very important and significant program at Karamu on the 22nd of February. It's called the Ancestral Remembrance Gala, and it's going to honor some elders in our community. Amongst them, Dr. Yvonne Pointer, we have Jacqueline Chisholm, Brother Philly Whedon, and Mwatapu Okanta is among the honorees. Baba Jubal is one of the honorees. So we are really looking forward to this. I'm going to be participating in the program as also one of the honorees. And we'll be doing some poetry and music with Brother Okanta. We've had a musical partnership for a number of years, and we're really happy to be able to bring our talent to the stage. So if you're interested in this program, you can go to the Karamu website and you'll be able to get your tickets there. I've had some conversations with the organizer of the event, and that would be Dr. Latia Phillips Bay. And she tells me that the tickets are selling fast. So if you haven't gotten your tickets, you might want to do that. It's going to be a fabulous program, and I'm sure it will be worth your while. Also, just want to keep you up to date on some things that will be taking place at Larchmere Arts. We are going to have an event that will involve Mary Kay Thomas. She's an artist here in the Cleveland area, and she currently has an exhibition up in the space. We will be having a closing event for her, and we will be welcoming additional artists into the space. So we got great plans for Larchmere Arts, and we will begin planning our Larchmere Cultural Arts Festival in the very near future. So stay tuned for more developments on that. I just want to let you know about some things that are happening in our musical community. And I want to do this show as the first of a number of shows to bring attention to this particular subject. I am welcoming Brother Nate Simpson. Nate has an extensive background in the music industry. He's a musician, he's a singer, songwriter, he's also a producer, he's been a venue owner, he's been doing quite a few things in the musical community here in Northeast Ohio. Currently, I believe he's in Warren, Ohio, but from what I hear from him, he's going to be coming back to Cleveland. So we will look forward to his return to Cleveland, and we're going to give him an opportunity to tell us some of the things that he has been doing here in the Cleveland area. Also, we're looking forward to having Brother Kermit Henderson with us. Kermit is another one of those folks that has an extensive history of music. I have him listed as a music mogul, and he's been honored in various ways and received all kinds of accolades and attention in addition to all of the things that he's accomplished in music. So we will welcome him as soon as he's able to join us in the studio. But until he gets here, I'd like to welcome Brother Nate Simpson. Brother Nate, I went online to find you today, and I keep seeing this UK-based guy named Nate Simpson. We got to do something about that, because I don't think the world needs to be confused about who the real Nate Simpson is.
Yeah. That's pretty funky. What has happened? Hey, good morning to you. Good morning to you, by the way.
Grand Rising, my brother, and thank you, for doing what you do and communicating at the level at which you communicate, because you're swimming in a lot of different lanes and you're connected to a lot of different people, and because of those connections, things are happening here in the Cleveland area and in other places. Why don't we start by giving you an opportunity to tell us about who you are and what you have been doing, and then we're going to get to the subject of the Cleveland music scene and honest conversation.
Okay, well, for those that know me and those that don't know me and those that I pray can know me and will know me, my name is Brother Nate Simpson. I am the original music pioneer, Brother Nate Simpson, of several decades. And I always like to start off any conversation by saying I am the youngest son of James and Sarah Simpson, my parents. Um, and all praise to God for them having me. And I am the youngest of 15 children that they sired together and birthed through the grace of God. And I am their baby boy. So I am James and Sarah's youngest child. I am also someone who has been in the entertainment business um, since I was pretty much 6 years old. Um, and that goes all the way back to singing in the church, as many, especially African American or Black people or people of color, grew up and started their legacy in entertainment or in music. And this goes so far back to everybody. You probably can't name a great artist who hasn't started out in church. So I was at 6 years old, plucked out of church at Temple Baptist Church at the great Temple Baptist Church, 7,500 seater here in Cleveland, Ohio, up under the stewardship of Reverend Eugene Ward Sr. And at that time, he had the largest church in Cleveland, which was at that time considered a mega church. A mega church in those days was 500 members or more, and he had well over 1,500. So he was considered a mega church where all the great leaders, icons through history, um, from Dr. King to Malcolm X to you name it, Mega Evans, all of them, if you wanted to become popular or elected or get your hands on the people, you came through my godfather's church. And because of that, he, my godmother, his wife, my my father, my mother, my uncle, my auntie, they all sired multiple congregations around the world and around the country, especially, um, and big mega churches with pastors that you know to this day. So at that time, um, he was entertaining a great artist by the name of Mama Shirley Caesar. And Mama Shirley Caesar um, thought that I was a little cute little spit that had a good little voice. And she'd asked my godfather, Pastor Ward Sr., could she have me come on her crusades, because that's what they had at that time. They weren't called concerts; they were called crusades. And after my godfather talked to my mom and my dad, and they were all partners anyway, so they allowed me to go out on the road with her. So that's where it all began. And through the years and through the decades, it matriculated to some pretty incredible things in my career, and working with some of the most greatest artists throughout time that we have seen in our generation.
Mhm. I'm having a flashback, Nate, to 1984,
Okay.
and there were these two brothers that used to do performances at a place called Spats. It was called the duo was called Nate and Jamie. It was Jamie Webb and Nate Simpson, and you guys used to just obliterate the ladies.
Hey, hey, Jamie was a great, and I think Jamie still is out there singing and doing his thing. And 84 at Spats, um, wow, great days. Um, at that time, I had Thursday nights and Saturday nights. Those were my nights. Jamie had Fridays and Sundays. And every once in a while, we would do a cameo together. And that was up under the late, great Councilman Donald Spears. He had put together those events, and he took a liking to me and my gift and my talent. And he talked to some people that actually owned that venue, which was at that time one of the most prominent Black venues in Northeast Ohio, let alone in Cleveland. everybody wanted to perform at Spats. You name it. There were two locations that everybody wanted to perform, and that was either Spats or that was either at the Agora. And so my nights was Thursday and Saturday nights, and I liked those two nights because they was um, paycheck nights, as we call them. They were money nights, and you knew that you had a great clientele coming in those nights. And at that time, I had requested that my opening acts were never going to be another band. It was, and I said, I want to have either a female artist open for me, or I want to have a comedian. And when I said comedian, the look on Councilman Spears' face just lit up, because he had a relationship with Steve Harvey's dad. And so he said that he would get Steve Harvey to come and open up for me as a comic act. Well, Steve, he came and he performed, but he was a bust. People didn't like him. He wasn't that funny. I thought he was kind of funny, but I didn't think he was that, but he was coming into the comedy game. And so we went out and we got John Hinton, and we got AJ Jamal, and we got Earthquake when he came around. And those four great men and talents became my opening act on a revolving level. I think Steve may have opened up for me a half a dozen times very easily. But my main person who would open up for me the most was AJ Jamal. And AJ was just, he was just hilarious on a whole nother level.
Well, if I can offer this, because I call him Jamal, because I've known AJ Jamal since we were students at Kent State University back in the day.
Uh-huh.
Jamal was the person that really inspired Steve Harvey to become a comedian.
That is correct. That is correct.
At the time, and this is a little Cleveland history, I was working as a news reporter at WERE Radio. And I used to meet Steve and AJ Jamal at the arcade, the old arcade. We used to have lunch there quite often.
The one downtown Cleveland.
The one downtown. And I think at the time, Steve had a carpet cleaning business.
Yes, he did.
He had a carpet cleaning business, and Jamal was working for IBM. He was a technician. I think he used to repair ATM machines or something like that. But I think it was AJ Jamal that inspired Steve to get into comedy. And I'm just gonna go out on a limb, and I'm sorry, Steve, because we go back to the 70s.
That's right.
But AJ Jamal is the comedian. He's the one that brings the laughs.
AJ was, just talking with him, sometimes you could just break out laughing for some of the things that come out of his head. And you could be like, well, where did that come from? What would make you think that? He could just pull things out of the atmosphere and relate to things around him so easily. And then he could talk about you, and you wouldn't even know that he's talking about you, because everybody's laughing, but at the same time, you would be laughing with everybody else, not knowing he's talking about you. I mean, AJ, he was just witty, and he still is to this day. He's just,
yes, he is.
He's a great talent, great gifted talent.
Yeah. He's actually come to Cleveland a few times to perform at the Improv, which is now, I think, Funny Bones.
Yes.
So
yes, he has.
Trustfully, we'll see him there sometime in the near future. But I know that he's carved out a living doing comedy on cruise ships, and he's anchored there in Las Vegas, and he may or may not still have his property in California. But very dear friend, and glad to see him being successful. So you were operating on that level, and then you got involved in a number of other things, including owning a couple of different venues in Cleveland. And this is really pertinent information because of the conversation that we're going to have. Can you talk about how your career evolved from the times that you were performing with with Jamie, and then essentially blew up?
Okay. Well, with first of all, if you could find AJ information, because I've been trying to locate him, and I need to speak with AJ Jamal. So if you could be so kind, help me with that.
I got you.
But as far as the transition from the entertainer to a venue owner. I became one of the people that was what they call a talent scout. Everybody was coming to me. All the local talent and people in the region from even Detroit, out of Indiana, all the way down into, Cincinnati, the Dayton brothers from Babyface and Kenny Face, Babyface, LA, all them with the deal. And a lot of them were coming to me for marketing assistance where I was at in Cleveland, because they knew that, quote unquote, I was the, golden guy coming out of Cleveland. And especially during the time when I made the cover of the Cleveland Plain Dealer in their entertainment section. And then there was several magazines that put me on their centerfold. And then all that grew from, songs being played that I had wrote and produced and worked with other people. And then eventually the Billboard magazine cover had announced me as the #1 and best new artist in the country. So during this time, I was also working as a scout to try to help other artists get played on the radio like I was getting played, or getting support in some of the venues that I was doing. And so I started working for a gentleman, and I got up under the umbrella of a man by the name of Mr. Hank LeConte. And Mr. LeConte, he was the franchise owner of all the 6 locations of the Agora franchise. And the Agora franchise was a place where they would do what they call a round table. If you got on their billing for one location, they would send you throughout their entire, places that they were connected to. And this was an automatic thing for great artists to get, booked. And Mr. LeConte brought me in, and he taught me the ropes, and then he gave me the understanding of what it takes to be not only just a concert promoter and a concert assistant, but a venue owner. That was incredible training up under him. And then it merged, and I had an opportunity with Denny to get involved with a company called Toucan Harry's. And Toucan Harry's with Denny and Laura, his wife, they had 2 locations. And those locations were, one was in the heart of Warrensville, off of a main strip and corridor from the freeway, which always kept traffic because it was like in a plaza. And then they added another one off the corridor in Euclid, off the freeway out near 222, near that way. And there was another one. So they had a south side one, or should I say a north side one, and then they had a south side one going towards east. And both of them were connected directly off the freeway, so you could get to both of them. Well, Laura, his wife, was looking to branch off into the urban community because they had tried to do what is called white popular music, and it wasn't working as much. So they brought me in at first because they knew I was associated with Hank. And then they brought me in as an anchor to their business, and eventually gave me a piece of the percentage of everything, which also made me part of the club owner. So then here I am leaving from Mr. LeConte, still working with Mr. LeConte under his tutelage, to now working with Miss Lori, who actually was the one running the club, not her husband. And they wanted me to get celebrities. I was already tied into all the celebrities. At that time, you had Mike Tyson, who was the #1 boxer in the world. He's from Cleveland. A lot of people maybe remember that. And I brought Mike in. I brought Jamie Foxx in. And I brought forget her. Oh my God, it's a female, great actress. And I brought her in as well. And she was a friend at that time of my wife. So I decided Jane Campbell, not Jane Campbell. She was a mayor. Jane, what's Kennedy. The actress? Jane Kennedy. Yeah. So I brought in Jane Kennedy and she had her husband, Leon Isaac Kennedy. So I brought them in, and everybody knew that I was, tied into that. So it went from spats to the venues, to the Agora, to Toucan Harry's as a co-owner as well with them. And then the great opportunity came for me later on to be a part of something that was in the center of downtown Cleveland. And that was the
Club
Sixth Street,
75.
no, Sixth Street Under.
Oh, 6th Street Under.
Sixth,
Okay.
Sixth Street Under with John
Story.
Feltman and Story now and Larry, where I was putting on acts for them. And they introduced me to Ron, who was the club owner for Club 75 in the heart of downtown Cleveland. And so when I got involved with Ron, his partner was Tony, and Tony was going to leave. Tony was having some health problems. And so Ron asked me, could I step in? And I said, what's in it for me to come and do this? And he said, look around. And he said, now look where you are. And I said, you're right. I'm in downtown Cleveland. And he was the only Black business owner, club owner in downtown Cleveland. And everybody wanted to perform at Club 75. And so I got involved with them, and I stayed with them for almost 2 years. And that's how all that matured from Mr. LeConte, the Agora, to Spats, or Spats to the Agora, to that. And in between that time with Club 75, I got the most incredible opportunity even beyond that. And that was to become the entertainment marketing director for the Metroplex. And that was in Warren, Ohio. And they featured all the sports events, all the fights, semi-pro ranking fights as well, and concerts. And so I reached out to my partners, John them from 6th Street Under. And I said, here, I got a great opportunity because they've given me this. Mark and Dino, who were the owners there, and Diane, I apologize, Denise. And she said, when I talked to, I'm make sure I get it right. When I talked to John and Larry from 6th Street Under, I said, I have a great opportunity here, and they're looking to have some investors to redo the facility. And it was a huge complex. It was, huge. The Metroplex it was the largest one pretty much in the inner city of Cleveland. And Mark and Dino and Denise, Denise was the general manager. Mark and Dino were the owners. And Larry and John from 6th Street Under said, well, what can we do? I said, well, I got a vision. I want to create a new front row. Since the old front row is gone, if we can take this and we can get the right architects to come in and the right surveyors, helicopters and landmass and the whole 9 yards, EPA, we can change this whole thing to the front row right here. It's off the freeway, it's accessible. Parking is immaculate. And so everybody bought in. We then decided that we were going to have to get some underwriters, some corporate sponsors. So we did. We went out to the golf court, and I was introduced through Campy Russell from the Cavaliers, because I used to do some work for Campy and Jim Jones at that time, who was also the center for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So, and they always wanted to run with me because they, even though they was athletes, it always amazed me. This part amazed me. Even though they were athletes, pro basketball athletes, and even football players like and Albert Bell, and for the Indians, and they wanted to hang with me because I was the golden guy in entertainment. And they knew that I had this persona, that I had all these women around me. And so they wanted to be around me. And we were from the airport to wherever. So we decided that we were going to go and get some investors. So Campy was playing golf, and him, his boys of Austin Carr and all those guys, and they introduced me to another guy named Peter, and Peter was heading up, I guess, the part for, as you golf, what they call it. He was a chairperson, or a person that would put everybody in order on their schedule for their events. And he then told me that he would be interested in the Metroplex because they wanted to have what they call their semi kickoff putt putt contest there, and what they call ratchet ball, where they hit the ball and see how far it can go when they are doing their training. So, and he had already been affiliated with the Metroplex with Mark and Dino. So it was kind of like a beautiful match with John and Phil, Pete and I, and then the owners. And so we had a price that we was going to purchase the building for. And as me being an entertainment director, I said, okay, I was kind of like the lead on the whole business deal. And we got some serious corporate sponsors. At that time, Bernie Kosar was one of them. And he came in and he hooked us up with Dick's Sporting Goods. This was before he got his contract with Dick's Sporting Goods, but it also helped Bernie Kosar get that contract with Dick's Sporting Goods to become their spokesperson because of this, what I'm talking about now. And so I had at that time Leroy Kelly, who was a former alumni for the Cleveland Browns. All of them were involved. Greg Pruitt. And so it was just, I had assembled about a good 15 or 16 or 17 great people to come in as facial names and people that had money and people that had influence to put together the whole thing for the new front row. And then came this beautiful, beautiful thing people called the Word Church. And I say beautiful because out of nowhere, they racked everything that we had set up as a deal to change it to the new front row. And then it became the headquarters for the Word Church operations, where they sired, multiple other congregations and churches. And it took me back to my mom and my dad and my godfather and my godmother and my uncle and aunt, how they put together all these churches across different parts of the country. And I was like, I'm doing the same thing that my parents did, so this must be in my DNA. And it gave me an epiphany, and it made me step away from the entertainment on that level to getting into helping that contract. So on 1999, going into 2000, the Word Church, Reno and them, they decided that they wanted to come over and they needed a bigger place to have what they call their New Year's revival that they now have every year. And I was entertainment director for the Metroplex. So I knew it was good money. It was a good draw. It was going to profit the venue. And I brought it to Mark and Dino's attention, and they said, okay. And I did a deal with their CFO, Haley, to rent the facility. And unbeknown to everybody, it sold out. And I do mean sold out. It was, that night was standing room only, even outside, trying to get in for that New Year's revival night. It was that crowded.
Okay. Listen, we got to step away for a few moments, but we're going to come back to this. I
Okay.
want to take this opportunity to let folks know that you are listening to 360 Info Network right here on AM 1490. My guest is Nate Simpson. He is a recording artist and he's also a producer. And as he is explaining to us now, he's also had some involvement in being a venue owner. And this is important because we're going to be talking about venues. We're going to be talking about recording artists and musicians. And we're going to be talking about some issues that are taking place in the Cleveland musical landscape. So stay tuned, stay with us, and we will be right back in just a few moments. This is 360 Info Network. I'm Vince Robinson. Brother Hamtonio may be back with us next week. He is away and he's probably enjoying himself wherever he is. He's in Africa, y'all. We'll
Uh-oh.
be right back.
Cleveland has stories worth telling and voices that deserve to be heard. That's why the Cleveland Observer is proud to sponsor 360 Info Network with Vince Robinson and Antonio on AM 1490 WERE, where truth, culture, and conversation come together. Each week, host Vince Robinson and Antonio open the door to powerful discussions, from the arts and community history to the issues shaping our neighborhoods today. And the Cleveland Observer is right there with them, shining a light on the people and movements building a stronger Cleveland. Tune in to 360 Info Network and visit cleobserver.com to read, watch, and share more stories that inform, inspire, and unite our community. Because together, we are Cleveland's voice.
Yes, that is the Cleveland Observer, and I'm really happy to have them aboard as our title sponsor. They're doing great work in the community in terms of the news and information that they share on that platform. And again, we're very pleased to have them as our partner in media. We're having a conversation today about the music industry here in Cleveland, and with us is Brother Nate Simpson. He has done so much here. I am aware of the fact that he has performed with the Chicago tribute band. They did a show at the Music Box a few months ago, and it was really something to see you fronting that band, brother. You know, the thing about, and we'll get into this conversation, but the thing about musical events is that you can have this orchestra on stage. You can have 20 or 30 musicians on stage. But when the singer comes out, all eyes are on the singer. You hear the music, but you focus on the person that has their mouth wide open, and it's really a magical situation. I think some singers feel disrespected because they're not seen as musicians. But the fact of the matter is, they are just as much a musician as the person who has an instrument in their hand. And I know this about Brother Nate because he shares music with me. He is prolific. He's written so many songs. I mean, you probably got a treasure chest of music that nobody has ever heard, you know, but trustfully in the very near future, they'll be able to hear some of the things that you have been doing musically, because it's important for us as artists to share our gift with the world. And I'm still sitting here amazed, brother. Your mother had 16 children?
Yes, she did. Actually 15.
15.
But one of my oldest sister, the first of my mother and father's daughters, they were twins, and we lost my twin sister during crib death. So it would have been, yeah, 15 of us, but it's now 14 of us.
Wow. So before we took the break, you were telling us about how you landed at a venue that's known as the Word Church now. You also told us that there were conversations about creating something called the New Front Row. And for those of you who aren't aware of the Front Row Theater, it was a great place for patrons because every seat was a good seat. But for the performers, it was a little bit different because, you know, sometimes it's good to be able to turn your back. But you couldn't turn your back at the front row. And so it was a great situation for audiences. And unfortunately, the front row theater had some economic issues. I think one thing that did the front row in was the roof. The roof was
Yes.
leaking. And I
Yes.
think they decided that they didn't want to put the money into fixing that roof, and they packed up and left. And when they left, they took away one of the best treasures that we had in this city. So you were involved in that situation over there. I want to say it's Warrensville Heights, maybe it's Cleveland. I don't know.
No, it's Warrensville Heights. It's
It's
Warrensville Heights.
Warrensville Heights. And
Yeah.
something you may or may not know, AJ Jamal lived in very close proximity to the word church because that's where his people live.
We lived not that far from each other. I was off of Tarkington over there by Carouge Park. And
Okay.
so all of that was combined. And the front row's treasure was that it did have that, what is called, it was one of the first to ever have what is called a revolving stage.
Right. Theater in the
And
round.
yeah, everybody wanted to perform there around the world. I mean, people from outside of the country, they knew about it, and it had such a epic name to it with such epic stars, celebrities.
Well, I will say this, back during those days, I was a reporter, an entertainment reporter. I was covering
Wow.
concerts.
Wow.
So I would come in, I had my little cassette recorder, and I would record the show, and I would take pictures during the show, and then I would go home and listen back to the playback and write my article. So
You kidding me?
I'm serious. So
Oh
I'm
man.
just remembering
Wow.
some of the shows that I saw at the front row, and the one that stands out the most was James Brown, because I had never seen James Brown live, and I had been following James Brown since I was knee high to a grasshopper. So the front row also was one of those dignified venues. It was not the type of place that you would go and stand up, because if you stood up, the person sitting behind you was not able to see.
That's correct.
It was a little disrespectful, but I'm telling you, James Brown hit the stage, and the music was going, I just had to get out my seat.
You can standing up because you got to stand up. It is
You
what it
gotta
is. It
stand
is what
up.
it is. It's
But
going to make you do what it's going to make you do.
he said, "Get up, get on up, get up, get on up." So I was following instructions.
I mean, that's
But
a concert.
yes, but James Brown, I saw Aretha Franklin there, I think twice. I saw Whitney Houston at the front row, and I have photographs of her from that show. I think I'm sure I saw Wynton Marsalis there, and he had
Wow.
Marcus Roberts playing piano for
Yes.
him.
I was at that concert.
George Duke and Stanley Clark and Nick Smith joined them on stage to play Mothership Connection and made a name for himself.
Yeah, Mothership Connection, Mother's Finest. You missing one incredible act. The one that
Well, no, hold up, and I will let you get that in. But before you tell me, I want to tell you that I was at the very last concert performance at the Front Row Theater, and it was Luther Vandross.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back to this one because it was my first experience at the front row. The first time I had ever been there, I was amazed. And my big brother Douglas took me to see the Jackson 5. And when I saw the Jackson 5 and I saw them running down that aisle, and oh man, you're talking about explosive. I mean, it was just, you're talking about standing up. Everybody was standing up from front to end during that whole show. So yeah, that was my first experience seeing Marlon and Michael do their thing with Jackie and Tito and Randy, and not, it wasn't Randy, but Jackie, Tito, Randy, and Jermaine. You know, they was doing their thing, man. And with them uniforms they had on, them outfits, you know, them glitter green and yellow and orange, and oh man.
Yeah,
it is, yeah, it inspired me because everybody wanted to be the Jackson 5 coming up in that era. You know, if you were in the boy and girl bands was the thing to do coming up in that genre in the, you know, late 70s, the 80s, and even the early 90s. You know, groups, you know, it was Jodeci and all of them, you know, all of them took from those groups and they put a little bit of twist on them to make it their identity, but it all comes from the Jackson 5.
So we're going to have a frank conversation about the music scene momentarily. I want to invite folks who may be interested in taking part in our conversation today to join us on the air, on screen. You can go to my Facebook page. You can also go to the 360 Info Network Facebook page. There is a link to StreamYard. And as you come in, I will be able to see that you're in the studio, and I can bring you on the stage, and we can have this important conversation. And I'll be transparent. I'm sitting in a few different seats as a venue owner and as a musician. Nate has a similar pedigree in that he's been involved in owning venues, and he's also a performer. And there's been a lot of conversation in the past couple of months about some of the issues that we're dealing with as musicians in Cleveland. One of the main issues is the issue of pay equity, and the issue is that we're getting paid the same thing that we were getting paid 30, 40 years ago. And
Mm,
that's something that needs to change. We're
mm,
having this conversation during a time in which they are creating a music commission here in Cuyahoga County. And there is legislation that proposes to provide some benefits for venue owners. And we're really excited about the fact that they will have access to additional capital. And we hope to work with them to see that there is some equitable distribution of those funds that may benefit musicians. But the real issue is that this legislation is being created, and it is being created without any mention of musicians who deserve to have a piece of that pie. So I want to talk about that, but I also want to talk about some of the things that we are dealing with as musicians in this community that involves each other. So there are situations where someone may come into a venue and be hired or selected to do a performance, and then someone will come behind them and perform for a lower figure, which is to the benefit of the venue owner, but it's not to the benefit of the musicians or the group that got squeezed out of performance because someone could get their entertainment for a much lower rate. These are the kinds of things that we have to focus on as compatriots. I mean, we're all doing the same thing, we're all in the same game, and we have to stop sabotaging each other because it's just detrimental to our community. Nate, did you want to weigh in on that?
um, yeah, so there's some critical things. One thing that and this is an incredibly important um, topic because I love entertainment. I love being an executive in entertainment. I love being in front of the stage with the mic to make people's hearts in their hearts happy, give them something that they can go home to or not even get home quick enough to. They may want to make love in the car. I don't care. But to bring joy and a loving spirit to their lives that they can share because of what they've seen and they witnessed. But what I do want to talk about first is you mentioned legislation. What is that legislation so that the people will actually know? So it's on them to do their homework once they find out. So what would be that legislation that you're talking about?
There is a Senate Bill 186. And what the bill proposes is to create rebates for venue owners that have 3,000 or fewer seats in their venue. And
Mm,
what they would like to do is offer them up to $100,000 per year in rebates on the sales of alcohol in their venues. There's also another proposed bill that would affect the musical community, and that's 187, and it proposes to give tax credits to folks that are involved in recording. And then there is another bill, I think it's Senate Bill 240, and Senate Bill 240 proposes a tax on the sales of adult use marijuana. So we've got three separate bills that connect to the musical community. The second bill, 187, will provide a direct benefit to musicians who are in the recording industry. And again, as you suggested, do your homework to find out what that is all about. Um, so, and then 240, same thing. You know, there could be a benefit to the musical community depending on how they decide to appropriate the funds. Right now, what we have is Cuyahoga Arts and Culture. It is an agency of the county. They receive funds from the taxation on cigarettes. And last year, issue 55 is a measure that passed, and it extends that levy that creates that revenue for individual artists and for nonprofit arts and culture organizations. But the issue with that is that that funding only provides a small amount of revenue for individual artists. At present, it's like between 3 and 5% of the revenues that come in from the taxation of cigarettes. And it does not seem, and I'm saying this as someone who is on the board for the Assembly for the Arts and someone who is very connected to the arts and culture landscape here in the Cleveland area, it doesn't seem that there's enough emphasis on providing opportunity for individual artists. I think this music commission proposes to create additional opportunities, but it's great to have more gigs. But if you're still being paid what you were paid in 1975, it's not fair. And so where we are right now is we got to look at doing some things to change this reality for us, because we're looking at win-wins. When you increase the number of performances and you increase the exposure for musicians, you bring people into Cleveland from other parts of Ohio, you bring people into Cleveland from other parts of the country. You know, Cleveland has the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Museum. Cleveland is a music destination. And I think that the powers that be realize this. They also, based on the statistics that they have shared with us, they also see that there has been a tremendous economic benefit to Cuyahoga County because of the music that happens here. But again, we're talking about doing things much more equitably so that we as musicians don't have to do 3-hour gigs for $100. So that's the legislation. It's 187, 186, and 240. And from what I'm understanding, that there is bipartisan support for these measures. So the Republicans and Democrats are actually agreeing on something for a change. But again, we need to see some impact for the fuel for music and entertainment in Cleveland, because if you don't have musicians, you don't have music.
Okay.
So,
Well, yeah, and you are 100% correct in everything that you've said, brother Vince. So let me unpack something, because you brought something to my attention in a private dialogue, and I said that I was going to keep certain things private, but there was one main thing that I needed to make public in this communication. One is, artists need to get out of their own way. Either you are a talent or you're an artist. Hear what I'm saying to you. Either you are a talent or you're an artist. Now, artists are those that create from nothing: a pottery, a sculpture, a melody, an airplane. How do I make water travel through canals? That's art. Art is also a gift from the Father. So anybody who don't want to realize that, that's why music is a universal language, and it is the only universal language on the planet that any and everybody's soul and spirit can connect to. So let me just put that out there, because I have worked with some of the greatest artists, and I'm speaking, some of the greatest, from my Uncle George Clinton to Prince to Whitney to Bobby, Celine Dion. I'm throwing out names because I have actually been on stage or studio or work with these particular people, great artists, but they're artists. They're not talents. So there's a difference between what you consider you're an artist or that you're a talent. Now, let me qualify that from a local standpoint of view, wherever you may be in your region or your city. Artists go to venues, and they normally are a reason that people come out to the venue. If I'm a club owner and you're not the headliner of my event that day, Stop putting yourself in a position like you need to be paid for your services when the people and you weren't marketed to be the headliner. You were a cameo. You came in on that day. People saw you, no different than they did in the past with Lena Horne and all the Sammy Davis, or no more than James Brown and Little Richard or Otis Redding, no more than Lola Falana and Sam Cooke. No, even to this day, you can name an artist. Aretha Franklin stepping in on Stevie Wonder's show and them doing a cameo, but they came out to see the headliner. So if you weren't the headliner that they came out to see, and me speaking as a venue owner, as well as someone who's been on the stage and has my name on the marquee, and the promoter was promoting me in conjunction with the event that they were having on all sides, whether it was me doing it or me receiving it. If I'm going out to a venue and it's a club owner, he, she, or they, their thing is to get patriots to come through the door and to give them the accommodations of their services that they have at that venue, whether it's food, alcohol, or whatever goes along with it. They didn't hire you to be the marquee, or did they? Now, those are two totally different kind of things in the entertainment business. So if they didn't make you the venue headliner for that night, and people didn't pay to come to their venue to see you, stop whining. Because that venue owner has every right to capitalize off of their venue, to make revenue, to patronize the people, and to make money to pay for their employees that help their situation bloom. And they are in it to make a profit. Let me say that again. They're in it to make a profit. Now, if someone hires me, if they hire me, then that's my click, what we call a clicker. One head count, two head count. So now I'm at the box office recording my money that's coming in for me, that the venue has to pay me because the people are paying to come into that venue. It doesn't matter the other accommodations, whether it's food or drinks, because that still belongs to the venue. The venue owner is really concerned about, did I pay this person $10,000, $15,000, $4,000, $2,000 to be at my club or my venue? Now that part can be taxed. But if I'm just coming in and I'm performing, then I'm giving that venue that power. I'm giving this legislation on these Senate bills that power. And I'm pretty much, as we call it, being thirsty. So we have to distinguish the difference between how you're approaching it as an artist, because that venue owner has to pay taxes on that establishment where it is at annually. That venue has to pay revenue to its employees where it's at annually. That venue has to market whatever produce that it's getting from wherever it's getting it from to pay its chefs and its staff annually, or the alcohol that it's getting, paying for it, and then annually. These are bills that go in, let alone the light, the gas, and other things that go on, the cleaning services to make sure that everything is COVID sanctioned and everything, all these, so there's things that go on for the venue owner that you don't see as an artist. But if I'm coming in directly as an artist, I'm coming in as a hired hand. So now that venue has got to pay me what I am asking for, what we agree to, or I'm not there. I'm just not there. I appreciate it. I respect your venue. I don't care whether it's a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or anything across the board or beneath it. I'm not there. I thank you. But if I'm talking about now as an artist, away from all that what I just now said at the venue. Now, as an artist, if I'm coming in there and I'm just giving away my time, then of course I'm gonna be prostituted. Of course I'm gonna be taken advantage of, because that venue now is getting headline people, which we have seen in the past from Leo's Casino, Tucker's Casino, all the other places and locations, the MGM, that you could, when artists is gathered together, yeah, people want to be around that, whether it's Justin Timberlake or whether it's Whitney Houston. You know, they gonna want to see that. I don't matter who it is, the latest artist, Ariana, or it's one of Chris Brown. They gonna want to see that because they're gonna be a part of that because that's an audience that they caught up with. So hopefully we got those two things very distinctively separated now. But if you got talent that's willing to go beneath a barcode of salary just because they want to play for something, and that venue owner gives them $500, you are messing up the game for everybody. So stop playing, stop tripping on it. You are messing up the game because you're lowering the bar too much.
Okay, I want you to hold that point because we're going to have to step away so that we can make a transition to YouTube and Facebook, and just remind the folks who are listening on the air right now, you are welcome to continue listening to our program. You can go to YouTube and go to my YouTube channel, and you'll be able to continue to watch this. You can also go to Facebook. You can go to my Facebook page. You can also go to the 360 Info Network Facebook page, and you can take in this broadcast from there. I want to take this opportunity also, as we always do, to acknowledge our engineer. Today we have a different person sitting in for Tone, who is not able to be here today. He's getting a well-deserved day off, but we appreciate Tone, Harley, and James. Thank you for doing what you have done for us today. As always, tune in on Saturdays at 11, live here on AM 1490 WERE, YouTube, and Facebook. As always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make it a great day, y'all. Peace.
Peace.
All right. So we are live now on YouTube and Facebook. You can also go to the Journey with Hamtonio. As I said earlier in the broadcast, Brother Hamtonio is away for the day. And I'm sure that wherever he is, because he's somewhere else, I'm sure that he's enjoying himself, and we look forward to possibly hearing from him in the next couple of weeks. We're having a conversation about music. I explained a couple of Senate bills, and Nate Simpson, who is a music producer and recording artist, has been giving us an explanation about the dynamics of venue ownership and musicians performing in those venues. And one of the things that we've talked about that is happening right now is we have musicians who are playing for less than they should be paid in certain venues, and they are sabotaging the efforts of others to be paid more equitably. And equitable is that's the important word here, because it has to be equitable. If venue owners are getting the benefit of the talent of musicians, then they need to be paid and compensated for what they do. And this is what a lot of people don't understand. Now, let me explain something. When you do a gig, it's more than just the time that you're on stage. It's business. So in order for you to show up to that gig, you have to have equipment, you have to have insurance, you have overhead, you have all these things. And the most valuable thing of all of those is time. So if you have a 3-hour gig, you have an hour to set up. And sometimes it may be more than that, because you may have a sound check. And so you show up for sound check, and then you go on stage a couple hours later. So essentially, your entire day is tied up. You got a 3-hour performance window. You got an hour after that show to break down and load your stuff. You got an hour before the show to load in. So that's 5 hours right there. Then there's a time that it takes you to get to the gig, and there's a time that it takes you to get home. And then on top of that, you have rehearsal time. There are a lot of expenses. There are a lot of things involved in the performance. So when a venue owner says, oh, well, I can only pay you $75 to do this gig, you're being disrespected and you're being exploited. And I hate to say this, but there are venue owners that don't give a second thought to paying somebody $75 or $100 to give them 3 hours of time on stage. That is a reality in here in Cleveland today in 2026. Now, I know people who were performing in 1976 and 1977. in 1978. And back then they were getting paid $100 to do a gig. We're talking 50 years later, and the cost of living has gone up. In 1975, you could have an apartment for $200 or $300 a month. Well, now that same apartment is $1,000, $1,100, $1,200 a month. So when you lower the bar, and I think you use that terminology, lower the bar. When you lower the bar, you're injuring people that you depend on to entertain the folks that are in your venue. I just want to put that out there to give it some context, because there may be venue owners out there that don't take that into consideration, and all they're thinking about, as you so eloquently announced, profit, the bottom line, because the bottom line is the bottom line. And yes, the venue owners do have expenses. I'm a venue owner too. I know I got to pay for lights. I got to pay for heating. I have to pay for advertising. I got all these expenses. So I trust. I do understand. But I just can't find it in my heart to give somebody $50 when I know what it's like to be on the receiving end of $50 to do a 3-hour gig. Nate?
Brother Vince, you mentioned a buzzword too. You said sabotage. And that's exactly what it is. It's other artists that are so thirsty to want to be in the limelight that they disrespect their own craft of what it takes to prepare to be in that position. I'm going to say that again. I'm a seasoned performer. And as I have given you some of my dossier, I have sang for 2 presidents. I have been on stage in front of tens of thousands. I have put together concerts, the Berkeley Carefront, where there was Luther Vandross, Nita Baker, the Barcades, Lionel Rich. I have worked with all of these people and seen how they operate. But what I am really talking about is the craft that you are projecting to the people that reflects you. I'm not talking about it reflects everybody else. I'm talking about it reflects you. At the end of the day, it's either, see, live is different from studios. Live is different from all that other stuff that you're doing. Live is live. You either about it or you not. You either gonna fly or you're gonna bust. Okay. And the people are gonna remember that part about you. So when you homing in on your craft and you rehearsing, I mean, we could go all the way back to Michael Jackson at 9 years old. They was rehearsing. They was in talent shows. They were doing things to know that those were free productions in front of people to home in on their craft. So that when they did ask for money, it was righteously spoken because they knew that they had put in the time towards their craft. And even till this day, I rehearse. I rehearse doing what I'm doing. You hear what I'm saying? And I rehearse how I sonically sound, how I melodically am coming across, how I'm visually looking in a mirror at what's coming out my mouth and my facial even expressions towards the tonality and the words in which I'm projecting. I'm looking at even my body language. Is it relaxing? Is it comforting? Is it inviting? Is it something that I'm making people now accelerate to in their excitement to go ahead on and want to get out of their chairs and do whatever they do want to do and dance and clap? So all these things matter from an artist's point of view when they're rehearsing. And you could go back and look at videos, everybody from Prince to Mike. I mean, these are the greatest performers ever that we have seen in our generation. Centrally wise, I'm talking about, I ain't talking about decades, I'm talking about over multiple centuries. These are the best of the best of the best. So when you are doing what you're doing as an artist, did you rehearse or are you just going out there for the lights? Because if that's the case, and you didn't do that, then you are sabotaging it because you are lowering that bar. You are making it harder for those that have done and put in the time towards their craft to be able to get compensated properly and request that from the venue owner to doing so. That's the first thing. The other thing is the venue owner itself, if they're prostituting you in that way, then they're not looking long term. The venue owner is only looking at a significant here now. This is what I need to get some money for here now. Most venue owners that care about their brand, and that's what it is, their brand, their logo, their insignia, their name, the tradition that they want to lay down. They're looking to bring in great talent because then it's synonymous, like the front row, like the other places, that you're getting this kind of quality act. And you're not looking for low bar money, as we call it, or low hanging fruit money. You're looking for higher fruit money. You're looking to be able to say it's $25, it's $45 to come into my venue. You're looking at now venues that's going to charge you $60 or $75 a ticket to come in to see an artist perform, and they're still providing the food, the wine, the accommodations, the parking, the whatever that is necessary for you to be comfortable in that environment, because it's more of a quality atmosphere that you know that is also security sanctioned. Security. So now security matters from the parking lot. Security matters from inside. Security matters from the comfortability of whether you want to sit down with one person, two people, or a group of people. All these things matter in the environment that you're in. So I'm speaking as a club owner that was with brand name organizations, brand name clubs that you can mention to this day that all have very good taste in your palate, even today, that you speak of them off your lips in their names. But venue owners now, if they're not looking that way, they're looking to prostitute you. And if you go in there and you don't recognize that, knowing this, and you lowering the bar and you accepting that, then that's on you, because you are hurting and you're sabotaging all those that are going to come and need to come afterwards. Those are differences between a quality venue owner. You don't see this at the Palace Theater. You don't see it at the Hannah Theater. You don't see it at the State Theater. You don't see it at the Robin's Nest. You don't see it at the Music Box. You don't see these things happening at these venues because they're looking to bring in quality acts. And the quality acts they bring in, they're looking to reward them with a quality paycheck, because they are taking into consideration the rehearsals. They're taking into consideration that you got to need 2 hours of sound check at the bare minimum before you do this hit. They're taking into consideration that you're maybe traveling from wherever you are to get to their venue. They're taking into consideration your breakdown. They're taking into consideration that their customer base that they're looking to have, they want on a repeated basis to pay that $40, that $60 ticket coming into their venue, plus buying dinner, plus buying the alcohol or the wine, plus doing what they need to pay for the parking lot. They're looking at that.
Mm-hmm. You know something, Nate? I want to bring another element into the conversation, because when you bring up venues like Playhouse Square and some of those others, there's the issue of capacity, and you outlined all the things that those institutions consider, like parking and all those other things. And then there's also the union aspect. So you have some shops that you go into as a musician where you have protections just based on Ohio revised code, but just based on a contract, a legal binding document that requires a certain level. So we have different situations in this town. And when you talk about scale, you know, some of those larger venues have many more seats. And so they've got the volume aspect. So if you got 3,000 seats and everybody's paying $50, $75, $100 for that evening of entertainment, you can generate a lot, and you can equitably compensate the folks who are involved in the productions. But when you change the scale and you come into a venue that only has 50 seats or 100 seats, it's a much different situation. So that's
No,
one thing to consider when it comes to that. Go ahead.
I agree to a degree. And when we're talking about scale, if it's 50 people in your venue, or if you can get 2,500 to 5,000 in your venue, you still have overhead. You still have the amenities that you know that you have to pay out of pocket to accommodate that particular night or that week or that month in your payroll or your quarter, because the way it's really set up, if you're a good business person, you're setting up your business on a quarterly basis. and there are 4 quarters in a year. And that last quarter, you're really looking to really, make a lot of profit, because that's the holiday season, going from Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and then the Valentine's Day. So that, and then that's also a tax write-off at the end if you're doing it properly and paying a higher scale, especially during that time, because that's more out-of-pocket expense that you can now write off on your taxes. So it's a business. It's a business. So let's talk about the minimum of it, the 50. The 50 people that come into a venue, if it's only capacity of 50 and fire code may say 75 people standing room only, I still need to look at the quality of talent that I'm bringing into my venue, because that's the only thing that's going to make me grow. If I'm doing it in a backyard way, it's less than even what we call the chitlin circuit. And so now I'm not looking at having a venue. I'm just looking to make immediate money still. So your overhead and your scale does matter no matter what size it is. You still have to put that in your budget for your annual, for your quarterlies, and then for your monthly rotation of what you're doing as a payout to what you're getting as an income. This is just economics 101. We're not talking about economics 101. We're not even talking about the taxation of it, because that's a whole separate level that we're talking about now with these legislations that they're trying to put out there on us to make us, because they've always found ways to profit off of black first owned businesses and black entertainment first. That's always been their caveat. You can go back 80 years, 100 years, 90 years, all the way back to the black face with the white paint on your face. They've always found a way to do that from then all the way up. Prince talked about it in his whole documentary. Remember? He talked about that. Whitney Houston talked about that in her memoir. Remember? So, I mean, they didn't just start out, they rehearsed, they did all these things. He was on the road with Rolling Stones, remember? So we have what is called blueprints to see how it gets done and what we should be doing. Now, this economic thing that you were talking about when you mentioned Senate Bill 186, 187, and 204, I think it was, 240. These bills have a main target. Let's talk about the target that they're aiming first. They're aiming really for black venues. And black venues are going to be always the ones that's hit first in any taxation, because they're the ones that have the least amount of revenue that they can fall back on, or banks to scale to help scale their going in the red. So when they go in the red, you have to have what is called a fallout, or what we call a bailout fund. And that fund can give you an extra 90 days to turn around your venue. Most businesses or banks will allow that to happen. However, if you're being taxed on top of that, and that's an increase, but you're not giving it to even the artists that are coming through your place, then you're going to sink. You standing in quicksand. You're not going to be able to get out of that situation. And that's why it's so important for this bill to include those addendums that are going to give that kind of nest from those that are falling, to capture them when they fall, so that it's not an immediate impact and they smash into the ground. You need a safety net. As my brother would say, you need some golden parachutes. Okay, so that's why it's so important for artists to really be on top of what's happening. And once it happens in Ohio, let us not be ignorant, foolish, or repeat history again. It's going to permeate throughout the country. They're going to use this for a blueprint and a bulletin to go outside of the provinces of Ohio, because you have to understand it's entertainment. And entertainment is global. It's not local, it's global. So this is what this is going to do, whether it's in Cuyahoga County, Cleveland, or throughout the province of Ohio, all 88 counties. They're going to expand this, but they're focusing first. I guarantee you, we have seen it time and time again. Let us not be stupid and repeat history. That is mainly focused on black communities. We saw it with Sam Cooke. We saw it with Lena Horne back in the day. We saw it with Lola Falana, what they did to her. We saw it with Aretha Franklin. We have seen it constantly happening. But it's normally the Black artists or Black recording or Black radio or Black venues that gets hit the hardest in these kind of legislations. So if it's not giving an incentive to include them this time, let us not be foolish now. This is Black History Month, people.
Yeah.
This is Black
Well,
History.
yeah, Nana, I don't necessarily want to say that it's not to the benefit of the Black venue owners, but I think that the real critical issue right now is awareness among the venue owners. And when you look at the venue owners and the way they're organized, Black venue owners are not very involved in that. So they don't know how they could benefit from this. Ultimately, I think what the state is doing and what the county is doing is looking out for their opportunities to capitalize on patrons coming in and drinking and eating food, because that's part of what drives their profits. But the issue for me as I look at this is the awareness of venue owners in general, because the reality is that they are consumed with their day-to-day operations. So they're not going to meetings downtown about this. And then the real sad part of it is they ain't really even invited to the meetings.
Vince, let me edify. Vince, let me edify
Okay.
on this, because this is very important, because you mentioned it. I was the lead singer. I just got off the road. I just got out of the group, but I had the great honor and the great privilege of being the lead singer for the #1 the worldwide Chicago tribute band in the country, Brass Express. Now, these brothers, they're all white and Italian. But what I found out on that tour that I was doing with them, that they're selling out 2,000 and up, every place they go to. They own the venues, they own the parking lot, they own the ticket box, they own the concessions, they own the musicians, they own all phases of that production that happens that night wherever we travel, wherever we perform, whatever theater we were in. That was the one thing that kept just and keep in mind, I'm this golden goose. I'm lead singing for this group, using all my God-given gifts, making them all happy, going to the rehearsals, doing everything. And didn't own nothing but my instrument and my voice. I'm gonna say that again. Didn't own nothing but my own instrument. So they were paying me very well for that part, but there was no other revenues coming in from any of these other cycles that they controlled, they own and control. Now, Black venues don't own their parking lot. They probably don't even own the place that they're renting from for their venues to even be in. You have to look into all of that when it says, did you build it up from ground up? Do you own the lease on the property? Are you getting your produce and your alcohol from somewhere else? Or do you have a control base for that? This is why it's important for us to look at all of these things. And anybody that's out there that wants to play ignorant or foolish, that don't want to understand this now that it's happening, I'm blowing the trumpet. I'm letting you know. I've been there. I've seen it. I've seen it from me first starting out in club owning to now being into a venue where there are theaters all around that you haven't even performed in that are selling out, that I have been in. And they control it. And I'm letting you know what they do and how they control it. I don't mind them controlling it. I'm just saying to you, if you're not trying to duplicate this so that you can have this, then yeah, you're going to keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result, and it ain't going to happen. And this is why, as a venue owner, even at a club that we call Frederick's here in Cleveland, that's in a plaza. Even though it's a beautiful Black-owned club, it's not Black-owned proprietorship. They don't own the building. They don't own the parking lot. So there's a parking lot across the street that they haven't even tapped into, possibly trying to see if they can have, if they choose to have a higher paying scale for services of talent to come through their venue, that they can now have that over there because they know that their head count can only match so much in their capacity. You get what I'm saying?
Mm.
And I saw this difference going all the way back to Toucan Harry's, Club 75, but then at the Agora, they own the facility and the building. And all this is something that we have all experienced. At the Music Box, they own that. They own their parking land. Okay. So if you're not getting that as an owner, or you're not trying to do that as an owner, it's going to hurt. So all these considerations have to go into these Senate bills. Who actually is going to fall without a parachute, without a net? Who actually is going to be able to have a net, but it's still only going to survive 90 days beyond that? And who actually just going to get cut out because now they've been realized, hey, I need to merge with this other group over here, these other venue owners over here in order for us to do something greater and bigger. The point that I'm making, if you don't own that place, that venue, if you don't control your own parking lot and everything that goes in it and your ticket count, you the
Yes.
target. You the
Right.
target.
So you've identified another critical issue, and the critical issue is ownership. And when you look at venues, and this is not just music, but it's also theater, it's also dance. You know, it is the arts, and a very huge deficit in our community, as you just so eloquently pointed out, is lack of ownership.
That's correct.
We don't have skin in the game, and we don't control those things that other folks control and profit from profusely. And because they have access to those revenues, then they can more equitably pay the folks that do the entertainment. You
That's
know,
correct.
as a group, it shouldn't be required. And trust, I get it, because I'm on both sides of this fence. But it should not be on the performer to promote for a venue
There you
unless
go.
there is an agreement that the performer is going to promote. And if they are going to be a promoter or promote, then that needs to be factored into the compensation.
Hey, there you go.
But the standard paradigm is bring in the folks that have the following and let them do all the work to bring their folks to the venue. And again, I get it, because I require that myself. Just
At one time,
because sometimes, you know, it's really about your folks, because your folks are the ones who feed you. You see, and trust, I get that. But I'm coming back to the idea that we need to have more ownership in our community. We need to have a venue for theater. We need to have a venue for dance. We need to have a venue for music. And we can do a lot with those things. And we can get the support from the government, because the government provides supports to everybody else. Why not us? I want to shift gears, Nate, and talk about audiences, because this is something that is not always discussed. But within the past week, one of our brothers in music, Brian Golden, B Golden, was on Facebook, and he was talking about, and I didn't witness the post. I've just heard about it. But basically what he was saying was, in a matter of speaking, he felt disrespected by an audience that wasn't really giving their attention to his talent. And trust, I get it. Because if you up there pouring your heart out and you looking into an audience and everybody's talking to each other, they're not hearing you. And you spend all that time preparing to give them a quality performance, and they're not giving you the benefit of their time. But the thing is, we have to be mindful of the fact, and I think Rob Hubbard spoke to this in something that he put out on Facebook, about the differences in performances. And we've had conversations offline in other rooms about that. You know, the difference between going to a bar and somebody being in there to provide ambiance and not staging a concert, because there's a difference between a concert and you performing at the bar. Now, is it important to prepare for that performance? Yes. But we had the conversation the other day and you talked about the importance of the MC. But once again, we're talking about a concert, and it's understood that when you come, and I think the important thing that you brought up, and I'm glad to repeat this, the question is, did you pay to see this performance? Now, one thing that I mentioned was, and I'm just flashing back to a night when I was at Nighttown and Buster Williams was on stage and he plays the bass and he was doing his solo, and somebody was at a table that was no more than 15 feet away from him, having a conversation like he was at home watching the game in his living room. And it's like, bruh, you need to be quiet right now because this is a concert. And as a concert goer, and you know I'm a jazz aficionado, so when I go to a jazz concert, I don't want to be
Put that word again, jazz. What?
aficionado. When I go to the jazz concert, I don't want to be listening to your conversation. I want to be listening to the person that's on stage that I paid $100 to hear. You see, so we have this issue, and then the other issue is that we aren't willing to pay to hear folks. You know, some folks, they're performing 5 or 6 nights a week, and everywhere you go, you hear them for free. So if they ever ask you for money, they will be saying, well, why should I pay you to hear you when I see you for free all the time? You see, so there needs to be education for audiences as well. We need to raise the bar, so to speak, so that that musicians don't feel disrespected and audiences don't feel disrespected either. Because when you step into the venue, and I'm not going to mention any names, but when you step into the venue and the music is so loud that you want to have ear protectors on, you know, I'm being disrespected, because whether I want to have a conversation or not, I'm being sonically assaulted, bruh. I'm being transparent. I'm in my 60s, and I stopped going out. I stopped going out because I just couldn't handle the noise. And even when I do go out now, I have earplugs in my camera bag. So if the music is if it's too excessive, I have at least a partial remedy. You know, I don't want to claim tinnitus from 50 years of concert going.
My brother, hold on. Okay. I'm gonna start out by saying, you know, you don't always have to be the creator of anything if you have already had great people that have already shown you the way and taught. The late great Coach John Thompson of Georgetown University, who had everybody from Patrick Ewing, Alonzo Mourning to Allen Iverson, etc. If you read, like to read, I do, read his autobiography when they asked him how was he able to take a team or organization with such a low budget and create such championships, and then championship players that went to the NBA and still had longevity and this kind of, you know, glory. So he said, I'm gonna just quote a phrase. He said, there's a major difference between listening and hearing. And in your conversation just now you gave to us, you said hearing multiple times. And even the artists that you said felt assaulted or offended that they were talking.
Disrespected.
Yeah. Well, there's a difference between hearing and listening. And if the audience heard him, the audience always hears you. You can hear multiple things going on at the same time. You can hear water. You can hear a bathroom shower. You can hear a baby crying all at the same time. Your audibles can receive all of that information and you can hear all of it. But what are you listening to? What did you sonically tune in to listen to? And that's the part, again, getting back to the artistry of it, or studying, or having a gaze that you have now, your connectivity. So the audience heard him. I just want to let that be known. They heard him. Now let's talk about the artist of it. The reason that I like comedians to open up for me, because one thing that the great, again, AJ Jamal taught me, he said, who got the mic? He said, you can hackle whether you up in the upper bleachers or you in the back or you right next to me or you down front. He said, you hackle me if you want to, but remember who got the mic. Whoever got the mic got the power. Richard Pryor said the same thing. Whoever's got the mic got the power. George Clinton said the same thing, and they're all right. So if you're the artist and you're performing and you have the instrumentation and the amplifiers there, you got the power. Now, you may not be on the mic. Mine comes from a mic because this is my instrument. But if you had a mic set up, you could have controlled that audience with the way you do things as an artist. So if you felt disrespected, it's because you didn't speak to the audience. You didn't lay down a melodic or a scenario where they would be willing to put the fork down for a second and tune in and home into you. And the reason that I know this, because I performed, and as I mentioned to you recently, I did a cameo with a group. I'm going to give y'all a shout out because I love y'all, but at the same time, I'm not trying to give y'all no commercial band with no name. So I'm out there with my brothers, Vic and Jeff and Myron and Joe. And I'm at the club, Frederick's, a black-owned club, where everybody was eating. Everybody was talking. Everybody was doing something, but they had an open mic night. Now, this recently happened. But when they called me up on stage, the first thing I did was got quiet, like Michael Jackson did when he performed at the Super Bowl. You stand there for almost 2 minutes and don't say nothing. Don't play, don't do nothing. I'm going to just stand here. I'm going to observe my terrain. And again, I'm really getting everybody's attention. Now hit. And it's those kind of things as an artist where you control the environment you're in that says that you are a seasoned performer and how well you are as a seasoned performer to command, to draw in the atmosphere that you are now, your spirit is now shining into. This is very critical for artists to study and learn. It goes all the way back to Philadelphia. It goes all the way back to Motown. It goes all the way back to Chicago sound, where you had organizations that were grooming their talents to be able to do this. It is a necessity for you to learn as an artist how to control an environment, whether it's mano-y-mano, whether it's 10 people there, whether it's 100 people there, or whether it's 2,000 people there, or whether you're in a stadium, then it's 60,000. And I have been to all of them. So I can perform whether it's one person I'm doing it for, or whether it's that stadium. I know how to grab their attention. And whatever they chose to do outside of the norm of that, that's only because of their disrespect, not mine. And it's not, and most times people will do like you said. Hey, look, like you said, hey man, could you chill? I'm really trying to hear this right now. I'm really trying to listen to what this is going on. That's artistry, man. That's part of you being able to discipline your spirit to allow the creation that's coming through you to come out of you so that it can control the atmosphere and getting out of your own way. But it's also understanding the environment that you're in. So these things go into the development of you training your own spirit to know what to do in those situations. So that person, when they was playing, they didn't stop the show. Because I've seen people as bold as Anita Baker stop an entire show. I've seen people like Donna Summers stop an entire show. I've seen people like Barry White stop an entire show and say, y'all not giving me. We seen the part of Ray Charles in the movie where they had to cut down all the lights. Stop the show, cut down the lights. Now let's put a spotlight on him. And now change the atmosphere.
Yeah.
These things do matter.
That's an important thing to mention too, because when you deal with theatrical performances, lights are used to direct attention, and a lot of these venues don't have lighting. But again, there's a difference between a concert and somebody coming to a bar to play music for folks to listen to while they eat and drink. So, but I want to defend my brother B Golden, because I saw footage of him and he was doing a D'Angelo tribute, and everything that he was doing was about commanding that audience. So I know it's within his skill set to do exactly what you said in terms of demanding respect from the audience just by virtue of his performance, because he
Did he speak it though, Vince? Did he speak it?
I can't say, because
That's all I'm saying.
I didn't listen to what he said on Facebook. I just heard about it, but
Okay.
I relate to it because I've been in that situation myself. And I get hired to do piano gigs. And when I get hired to do that piano gig, and I do it knowing that the reason that they hired me is because they wanted ambiance, I do it knowing that the folks didn't come to see me, but I'm there to contribute to that particular event. And as long as you compensate me fairly, whether they were listening or not, I got paid and I did something that I enjoy. And it's not uncommon after a performance or after one of those situations where I may have thought that nobody was listening and someone will walk up to me and say, I really enjoyed what you were doing. And that makes it worthwhile. The fact that I got paid fairly for that makes it even better. But on the other hand, if I'm doing a concert, because I do shows at Kent State University on stage with sound company and all of that, I know when I'm in that situation, you didn't come to have lunch. You didn't come to have a conversation with your neighbor. You came to hear and to witness and experience what was happening on that stage. But
let me give you the last example.
Yeah.
When you go to a symphony or orchestra, you want to hear the cello, you want to hear the violins, you want to hear the harps, you want to hear the bugle, you want to hear the trumpet, you want to hear the beautiful merging and marginalization of everything becoming in one composition, in one tone, but you can still hear every instrument in distinctive tone. You're not there talking. It's the same thing, application that you have to also apply in your thought pattern to when you're wanting to deliver a message. And the message is through the song. It's through the melody of the song. It's through the rhythm of that song. And it's definitely through the lyrics of that song. So for me, again, this is just me, because I've had situations in my past where people would be talking as I'm performing and I didn't know how to control it. I had to learn that. I had to mature to that. I had to elevate to that. But when I got it, I got it. And I knew how to stop and really just stargaze around the audience. And I knew how to just say one last thing. I need to say what I need to say because these lyrics in this song need to help somebody or tell somebody and breathe life on something. So if you don't mind, bear with me. Just something that eloquent and delicate will change the atmosphere of interruptions or being rude. And once you capture that once, the entire night or success or day or event then becomes in your hands. And the people appreciate that because now they're seeing someone who can control the audience, but more than that, now you can show whether you are an artist or you're just a talent. Artists, again, as I started this whole thing, know the difference. It's in our DNA, it's in our training, it's in our tutelage, and it's in our spirit, because we can get out of our own way. And that's when you know, like when Justin Timberlake made that crack about Prince, about sexy being taller. And Prince was at his concert. And then Prince invited Justin Timberlake to come to his concert, and he gave him a front row ticket. And when he gave him a front row ticket, he was with Cameron Diaz, his ex-girlfriend at that time. His girlfriend at that time became his ex. And they came to Prince's concert. And Prince showed Justin Timberlake, who was the #1 artist in the country and also outside of the country, what sexy really is. And he said, sexy never dies. It travels with you because it's what it is. And Prince did what Prince did and just humiliated Justin Timberlake to the point that Justin Timberlake then asked Prince, could he teach him? Could he teach him, tutor him? And Prince took him in for 3 days. That's what made Justin Timberlake so great. He was up under the tutelage of greatness, greatness. So once you're in those environments, you're supposed to learn. And even as an artist to another artist, you're supposed to learn from these other artists. You're supposed to learn from them. Just like Gerald Levert, all those years, was studying me. He would come to my concerts. He would be backstage or he would be side stage. And he would be looking at me perform at the Spats. That's where all that started from. And I didn't know that he was studying me until about the third time he did. He came to the show. And I then found out who he was later. But putting it all together, that's what great artists, we are supposed to do with one another, and get out of our own way, appreciate and learn from other artists. Because if you're a pure artist, I'm saying it repeatedly, that is not your gift. That's a gift from the Father. And you're supposed to use it for that. So that's where I'm at in the situation. If I had to say it to any and everybody, and whether it be Charlie Wilson, I've learned from all of them. Stevie Wonder, I've learned. George Michaels, I've learned from all of them. Natalie Cole, I've learned. And I didn't just hear them, I listened to how they were doing what they were doing. That's all I got to say.
Okay. What I will say in this moment is we need to be on the same page as musicians in Cleveland, Ohio, and Cuyahoga County. Immediately. We need to have some conversations about things that need to change, but we also need to come up with a game plan so that we're not just talking about the things that need to happen, that they're actually implemented. So there needs to be dialogue, there needs to be an action plan, and it needs to be carried out. And I'm not so naive as to think that everybody's going to jump in and want to lock arms and move things forward. As in any movement, it's always a few people that make things happen. So this is really just a heartfelt request for those of you who are in our musical community. Let's do something more than just talk. And we're going to be rolling out plans to do something as the weeks continue to progress. Just know that there is strength in numbers and there's strength in being organized, but you can't do anything if you don't have any level of organization. So folks out there that are listening, and I know that there are a lot of people who are interested in some outcomes. There are things that we need to focus on right now. One of them is pay equity. One of them is advocacy. That means that we have to have a voice and we need to be sitting at the tables when plans are being made that involve us. And that ain't happening right now. I want to be crystal clear about that. That ain't happening right now. And you cannot continue with the politics of exclusion. So for anyone who's listening to this right now, know that I am speaking to you. You cannot continue to exclude us from the plans that are being made. And those of you who are performers, just know that you do have a voice and you have a right to be heard, but you're not going to be heard as individuals. You're going to be heard as a collective. So you need to have a collective situation so that you can have an effective voice. I hope y'all hear me, because I'm not just saying this to be saying it. If you want things to change, you got to be involved in the change, and you can't expect things to change if you do nothing. Sit on the sidelines and complain and keep accepting the same thing. So you got to get up, you got to do something. And sometimes it's as simple as making a contribution to a cause. Put your money in. There's strength in numbers when you pool your resources.
My brother, can I piggyback on what you just
Go
said?
ahead, please. You
just said something that's important, that word collective. You have artists, you have musicians out there and talents out there that are willing to do the same thing as long as they're getting their small little piece. And that's what you're really getting, a small piece. And you stepping away from your greater good and the bigger slice of ownership that you can actually command in this whole thing. Let me just say, there is a blueprint that is out there that is profitable for you. I'm talking generational wealth. I'm going to say that again. I'm talking about wealth that can be put into place starting from where you are now, this very second, that will give you and your grandchildren generational wealth. If you think I'm lying, Vince, you kind of know what I'm already talking about with about a dozen other people that we're already doing, but it ain't for everybody. I just want to say it ain't for everybody, because some people are comfortable in their marginalizations. Some people are comfortable where they are. Some people are comfortable being crabs in the bucket to feed off of what they can feed off of. And we know that. And we cool with that, because if that's where you are, I'm not going to try to preach to you, because that's going to be for you and your own cross to handle. That's for you and your own God. But what I'm talking to you about is now being able to do something that many greats have already done in the past. And again, I go back to Barry White, because he said something on the Johnny Carson show many years ago that we're talking about right to this day. He said the problem about Black entertainers is they don't come together when they should. But we remember great organizations that produce great talents out of their regions, not just Detroit, not just Dallas, not just places like that, but even in Cleveland. Go down into Dayton, and you'll find that they have at least close to 10 major groups that have came out of little bitty old Dayton that you know now around the world. I'm talking about, you can name their names. You know, that's where Solar Records, if you remember back in the day, was harvesting most of their talent, whether it be Atlantic Star, Midnight Star, The Deal, Bootsy Collins, et cetera. That's where they were getting them from. They weren't getting them from Cleveland. They weren't getting them from Detroit. So there are places that have already laid out the blueprint of how to do it. We just talking about bringing it up ecumenically to this day and making it global. We're talking about doing it in this time and stage and making it something that we can do as well as what they've already done. So get out of your own attitudes, get out of your own way, and don't be your worst enemy. But those that are going to stay there and do that, then fine. Don't get upset when you see the freeway getting paved and it's a 4-car lane on both sides and traffic is moving, and you find yourself still talking about, I need an Uber. That's, you had opportunity. You had an opportunity. That's all I want to say.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm going to wrap things up right now, but just want to bring your attention to the fact that there are definitely conversations taking place right now. I think maybe a couple of months ago, Joey Little was on Facebook, and he expressed himself rather candidly about things that are happening. Jay Sean Champion also did the same thing. There's a brother by the name of Dave Harp, and I wanted to have Dave on today, but unfortunately, he's traveling and he wasn't able to make it. But we will have further conversations about this, and we will also make sure that you are aware of things that are happening so that we can open lines of communication and so we can organize. One thing that I would like to see happen, and there's been conversations about it taking place, is us having a summit where we can bring everybody into the same room and talk about the things that need to happen. And I think that's a great first step. But in addition to that, I think after we have these conversations, and we need to have conversations with the venue owners, they need to sit in the same room and have a conversation. There needs to be a situation where we have the musicians in the same room. And then there needs to be a situation where we have all parties involved in the same room. And we're not having those conversations right now. We have a few people who have been hand selected to be on an advisory committee to contribute whatever insight they have. Okay. But they're not always folks that are completely involved in performances. They're not the folks who really understand. And I'm not sweeping a wide brushstroke and saying that they don't understand everything. But I'm saying you have to be in the trenches to understand what the trench is like. You can look at the trench from one side or the other, or you can look down the trench, but until you in it, you don't really fully understand what it's like to be in that trench. And so it's important for you to have the conversation with the person in the trench so that things can be adjusted to accommodate the needs of that situation. And I'm just being fully transparent, and I'm passionate about this. I know y'all can see that there's some passion here, but it's because I'm in the trench, and we be in the trenches and they be dumping dirt on us. And we like, hey, but wait a minute, we trying to breathe, we trying to live, we trying to make a living doing what we do. And you have this idea that because we're artists, we're supposed to starve. We live in a universe of abundance. There's enough food for everybody, but it has to be shared. We have billionaires on this planet that are hoarding resources. I talk about this from time to time. Elon Musk is sitting on $500 billion, and there are 8 billion people on the planet. And he could give $1 billion to every person on this planet and still have $442 billion to work with. Nobody would have to go hungry. Nobody would have to beg for money for a performance. You got $1 billion in your bank account. You ain't worried about getting paid. You already paid. but this is the game that they do, and the reason that they do it is because they want to have a certain level of control over everybody. They don't want people to think. They want us to sing and dance and throw basketballs through hoops and run a pigskin across the goal line and entertain them, but they don't necessarily want to empower us, because the moment that you empower people, they become responsible for their own destinies, and you're not responsible for their destinies. Okay, right now, there's a lot of planning going on. We're talking about lakefront development. We're talking about, creating institutions, all this, but we're not sitting at the table. We're not
generational wealth. That's all I want to say again. If you only thinking about yourself in this moment and not your grandchildren, I ain't even saying your children. I'm saying beyond your children. I'm saying your grandchildren's wealth. Most great people that come together, the collective bargaining of them, the Ebony Magazine, the Johnson family, et cetera, et cetera. People don't recognize they own a lot of the skyscrapers and stuff that's in Chicago and also in Japan. So you and their great children are profiting from these things because they created a revolving wealth. And I'm just saying, a lot of we're on this air, but it's there. And if you're asking about, well, why not me? Why am I not doing it? I'm telling you right now that I am. I'm telling you right now, in a very soft tone, I'm about that. I'm all about that. So
Yeah.
don't get it
Well,
twisted.
and that's a really key thing to understand right now, because we're witnessing the greatest transfer of wealth in the history of this planet right now. And we on the sidelines watching it happen. And it's the same scenario actually, because the bankers, the Federal Reserve, central banks, they're all conspiring to maintain the control that they've had for so long. And now you have this new technology called blockchain, right? And the blockchain is the great equalizer, because with it, anybody who has the knowledge and awareness can participate. But if you don't have the knowledge and awareness, then you let other folks make the money while you sit on the sidelines. But intergenerational wealth is the most important thing that we have to address in terms of creating a legacy that will perpetuate our success, because the your success is relegated to the resources that you have. And one of
Success,
the ways,
Vince, success is not for everybody, but it's for everybody. I'll unpack that at another time, maybe privately or when we are doing our thing. But
yeah,
success is for it's for everybody,
it is.
but it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
And you have to be the one to know where you should position yourself in order to obtain it. That's what I learned when I got out with that Chicago Tribute. If it's one thing that I took back from that whole thing is they they know what they're doing. They're not guessing. They're not speculating. They're not hoping. They're not wishing. They're actively, repetitively creating this cycle. And it is a cycle like none other that I have ever witnessed in entertainment. I'm telling you, I witnessed it with my own eyes. I witnessed it with my own involvement. And I don't know too many people, because I was the first one ever in the history, from what they have told me, to be a black man being the lead vocalist of a Chicago tribute band, let alone. And I met two of the Chicago members. So it's astonishing to me. If you were sitting where I was sitting to witness what I was witnessing happen, and to look out, and 98 to 97% of the people there are all Caucasian, Greek, Italian, and selling out. And I'm not talking about just the 40 and 50 and 60 years old. I'm talking about the grandparents of those people and the grandchildren of those people. Their grandchildren buying tickets to guarantee the generational wealth that they will once be the next ones, where their parents or their grandparents or their great grandparents are. And they're selling out these concerts. It's such a beautiful thing to see. It's such a beautiful carnival to see that they are controlling every aspect of it.
Yes. So again, just coming back to the great equalizer and the prospect of intergenerational wealth based on the new technology that everyone has access to, and the new paradigm. I don't want to go too long because we need to wrap up, because I gotta make a move. But
Okay, my friend.
yeah, but the just the idea that you can make investments that can grow. And we have the ability to do that right now. The paradigm shift is moving from being employed to you being an entrepreneur. You're going to have to do something, because the job that you studied 4 years ago, 4 years for, will not be there for you when you graduate from college, because they found a way using technology to do what you would do with that 4 years of education that you paid for. And if you borrowed the money, you end up paying it the rest of your life if you don't have things lined
What
up.
what was Prince and Michael Jackson's biggest claim to fame. It wasn't their music catalog or their anything or their entertainment. It was the fact that they were able to go back and obtain ownership of their catalogs. And that was the whole fight of their entire career. When that happened, it changed the game. They were the first two artists to ever go back and get all of their catalog, all of their publishing, all of their ownership, all of their masters.
And that's where the money is. You know, I mean, and again, not to belabor the point, but you have this talented person who has an opportunity to get fame and exposure when they sign that contract. But when they sign the contract, they're also signing away their ability to generate money because you just agreed to get pimped. You making 1 or 2 cents on a CD that sells for $20. There's no equity in that, you know. But when you understand that the money in music is in the publishing, that's where the money is. It's in the publishing. It's in the royalties that you get because you created it. You own the masters, and these are the things that we have to do. And again, blockchain can enable you to do that. You know, most of us don't know about non-fungible tokens, NFTs. We don't know that people can invest in our product, own a piece of it, and contribute to your financial success because they're investing in you as an artist. There are so many things.
Teach, my brother, teach.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing. We need to address the issue of equity, but we also have to have education within our ranks so that we know the kinds of things that we can do to be financially successful. Because you are very well aware of the fact that music is a business primarily. It's a business. They say 90% business, 10% show. The things that happen behind the scenes are the things that make it possible for you to share your talent. But if those things don't happen, then you singing to an empty room, or you're singing to no room because what needed to be done for you to be in the room hasn't happened. Okay. So I'm going to come back to the 3 things: pay equity, advocacy, and professional standards. And within the professional standards realm is the education about the business so that you know about ASCAP, BNI, BMI, music publishing, royalties, and all of that. When your music is played somewhere, you get paid. But you ain't going to get paid if you don't have your music copywritten and registered and you don't have those ducks in a row. And we get excited about being able to play, but we haven't taken care of the business, so we can't really profit. There are a whole bunch of things that need to happen, and they're going to happen when we take control of our situations and we make them happen. And don't operate in ignorance, operate in intelligence, information, and awareness. And that's how we create success for everyone. Nate, it's been wonderful having this conversation with you. We've gotten great feedback while we've been on the air. I appreciate you for stepping up and being involved in this conversation. And I can see from the comments that this should not be the last time because folks are interested in what we're talking about. And so somebody says, I think you need to have this brother back playing a series. So there it is. There it is.
God bless you.
Thanks for joining me on 360 Info Network. If you're on with us right now, do me a huge favor. Just hit like, hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost anything. Some folks think that when you subscribe to a YouTube channel, you got to pay. You don't have to pay. It's free. Hit the notification bell and you will find out when we post content. You'll get a notification in your notifications tab on your YouTube channel, and you'll be able to see that we posted video and you can watch it and you can get whatever it was for you to get from it.
Hey,
So
Vince, let me say one thing because I don't want to be remiss.
Okay.
I've worked with a lot of rap artists as well. A lot of them, from Master P to it's just been so many of them. So my genre of music and my attachments, I've worked with several of them. And so if you look at the most profitable self-contained artists or artists, they're really coming from the rap game because they learned everything that I'm speaking now about some of the R&B artists, et cetera, wasn't getting from Sam Cooke all the way up. But I mean, just look at Nelly. Just look at Ice Cube. Just look at, I mean, just I've worked with many of them. I'm just saying, and let's do what we got to do. That's all I want to say. I love you. I love you. I love you.
All right. All right. Likewise, my brother. And thank you again for communicating. Thank you for doing what you do, and thank you for being a part of this conversation today. And we'll look forward to having further conversations, and we'll have some more involvement. No one took us up on the offer to appear on the air with us today. Perhaps next time we'll get some invitations out and we can bring some more voices into the room, but we definitely appreciate yours. With that being said, as always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, and make today your absolute best day.